Hello to all my Paradise fans out there, and welcome back to my channel. We are back with our weekly theory video where I discuss some of the big talking points after the most recent episode of Paradise Season 2. And man, let me tell you, after that devastating episode, we've got a lot to discuss. In today's video, we'll be discussing who took Teri and if she was taken against her own will or if she went willingly. We'll also be taking a deep dive into the possible identity of who Link is and his possible ties to Sinatra. So much to talk about, so let's hop on our horses, let's hop on a train, and let's discuss some crazy theories after watching episode 4 of season 2 of Paradise. Now, before we get into all the great theories and predictions, let's start this conversation off by having a brief therapy session about the loss of Annie Clay. So many comments came in about how a lot of you all felt the same way I felt, which was being absolutely devastated, heartbroken, and just confused by her death. I'm sitting here thinking when we first met Shailene Woodley in episode 1, like, oh, she's about to be a series regular. She's going to be a big part in this season, maybe at the end of this season leading into the final season of the show. But no, the show had other plans, and that was ripping our hearts out. Taking a look at some of you all's comments, and this is just a few of many that came in, but the first one says, kudos to the writers for making me care about a new character so much. The actress playing Annie does really well here. Next comment that came in says, I cried and hollered at the TV when Annie died. And I thought Sinatra was gonna steal Little Cow. More on that a little bit later. The way I cried during this episode, like I fought not to do the ugly cry. Bro, I cried for Annie. I hadn't been worried about an Annie since MJ. I only laughed to stop myself from crying because I'm still heartbroken by losing Annie, but as I spoke about in my last breakdown, kudos to Shailene Woodley, who I've always been a fan of her as an actress, and I thought that she really gave an Emmy-nominated, possible Emmy-winning performance as Annie, and also, I just want to make sure that you all know, Sterling K. Brown is very important in her death scene, right? Because the way he acted when he realized that she was dying was just he was so vulnerable in that moment, and he was just so amazing, but I also want to give props to the writers for, again, taking us on this arc from Annie from episode 1 into this 4th episode, from, again, allowing us to see her as a little kid, her losing her mom, her not having hope in the world as a young adult, to her finding a job and meeting Gail, to the world coming to an end, to her being pregnant and wanting to bring in new hope in the future in her daughter, and leaving her daughter with Xavier is just such a beautiful story. Now, like I said in my previous breakdown, this show has a way of bringing back dead characters via flashbacks or, of course, the possibilities of time travel that we'll talk about later. But if that was the last time we saw Annie, again, I want to say RIP to Annie Clay and shout out to Shailene Woodley to giving a phenomenal performance as a character. Now, let's get into some theories and predictions after this 4th episode. Let's start off by talking about the end of the episode and talking about who took Teri. First thing first, I do believe that the mysterious person at the end was referring to someone or people taking Teri, not her being dead. Now, the question is, who took her? It's important to remember a little detail that I thought would be an issue going all the way back to episode 2 of this season.
If anyone is receiving this, my name is Xavier Collins. I'm flying to Atlanta to find my wife, Dr. Teri Rogers Collins, who sent a radio transmission from somewhere near the city center.
Look, by giving that information over the radio, did X accidentally compromise his wife's location? Now, if that is the case, there are 2 characters that come to mind that might have taken Teri. Number 1 for me is Sinatra, for reasons that point towards her having power and leverage over Xavier. Now, another option could be Link. He knows of the bunker and could use Teri as means to get into the bunker, or maybe he needs her help. What I mean by that last part is, maybe with knowing her expertise, maybe she can help in destroying Alex. Now let's transition and see what you all have to say about who possibly took Teri. First comment says, Teri is on the train that Link and his group were waiting for just before they headed to the bunker. Link knew Teri. It's also why she wasn't picked up. Sinatra has been monitoring Teri, which is why she had a tape recording of her calling for help. The guy X had met in Atlanta was her partner. They were working on problems and I think have been in communication with Sinatra's underground quiet project. I believe what Teri and her partner did was the leverage that Sinatra sent a train to bring Teri to the bunker. Sinatra had people take Teri. Link was trying to stop the train and use Teri as a way to get in. I like what this person is putting down. I think there's a lot of evidence to prove what they were getting into in regards to Sinatra's means of getting Teri and using Teri to maybe even help her understand or to learn how to operate Alex. Same goes for Link. Like, obviously, again, knowing her expertise deals with cells and DNA, like this would be someone that can maybe help them stop Alex. So I do think there is a good reason to believe that Sinatra could have took Teri or Link could have took Teri, and the idea that she's on that train makes a lot of sense to me. Next comment says, I bet the person that took her is the one lady who was begging Xavier to take her children when the White House was being evacuated. I think she was like the president's secretary. I say that because she's been in all the flashbacks, and as well, she totally blamed Xavier for not giving her the information for her family. As they got on the helicopter, she gave Xavier the look of death. Okay, Freddy G3387, I like what you're cooking there, my friend. I think that's a really interesting theory, because that would be a very kind of like payback, comeback moment to season 1. But also, I believe, and by the way, I believe the character that he's referring to is Marsha, who was, I believe, the secretary of the president. And yeah, there were some mean looks she gave him, especially at the end on that helicopter scene. So yeah, I don't want to say it's a bit of a stretch for her to, maybe have a group of people that follows her, but the idea that she can come back and want to take Teri, I mean, look, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think she's going to be involved. But you are right. She was in a flashback this season. I believe it was the flashback when we saw Sinatra talking to Cal, and she was talking to Kane about getting the developer, and that's where Kane suggested Billy. So she has been in this season, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, Freddie. I like what you're cooking there, my friend. Some really great theories, y'all, but I do want to point out, based on the information that's been public to us, this is on Hulu's website in regards to next week's episode, and we'll talk about this further at the end of this breakdown, but it does appear that we will be learning what happened to Teri on the day of the event, so a flashback-centric episode might be in play, but I'm pretty sure we're going to find out what happened to her in the present day as well. Let me know in the comments, who took Teri? Do you believe it was Sinatra? Was it Link? Was it someone else entirely? Was it Martha? Let's talk about it in the comments section. Now, it's safe to assume that this individual that we're about to talk about now will be a topic of discussion until the finale of this season, and that is Link. Episode 4 didn't shed too much light on his true identity and who he is, or his ties to Alex, or if he's a time traveler, but we did get 2 other people who may be Link as a young baby and as a kid. I'll mention this in my breakdown, but during the recap before episode 4, the show deliberately showed the scene from season 1 when Sinatra was with her dying son Dylan and her saying the following to Gabby.
Everyone said time would help. It's not helping. Time is actually making it worse because it's taking me further away from when he was here.
Now that just seems to be way too important to me. We know that the loss of her son basically was the result of her slowly going from Samantha into inevitably becoming Sinatra. But what if she could change that? What if she could bring back her son? Again, nothing's definitive, but all signs are pointing towards the technology Alex being a means to either manipulating time or allowing time to be observed or experienced at multiple points. Could she be using Alex to bring her son back and be able to save the world, or will she have to choose? Now, what does that have to do with Link? Well, let's check out another great theory. I'm going to say again that Sinatra's main focus is her son. After showing her son in the preview, I'm still standing by that. But now I think Link is her actual son, some multiverse vibes. They won't show his name, and they made sure to blur out while they showed his college ID. Now look, for me, since day one, I've said there has to be a reason why they haven't shown or we haven't heard Link's real name, so there definitely seems to be some type of big reveal in regards to his name. But I also like what that theory had to say in regards to the multiverse, but I'm thinking more about maybe 2 different timelines. Again, remembering that we talked about superposition, quantum entanglement being particles that exist in 2 different states at the same time. Could Dylan have died on one timeline while living in another, and we see him grown up as Link? Now, let's stick with Link, but let's talk about him possibly being baby Cavlin. Now, narratively showing Louisa and Annie both having their babies at different times, what they represent within the story of hope and showing joy works within the main theme of this episode. But what if Cavlin is actually baby Link? Think about it. Link not knowing a single Elvis song, not knowing about Jaws. These are things that a kid wouldn't know about in modern times, but also a kid that would be born into the bunker. Now, someone had mentioned in the comments that they were scared that maybe Sinatra was going to do something to baby Cavlin at the end of episode 4, but kind of sticking to that idea, what if she did? What if she took Cavlin that night or at some point within the 3 years and she exposed baby Cavlin to Alex? And again, let's say this technology has the ability to travel through time. What if she sent Cavlin to the past and was later found and raised by the developer and his wife by the name of Alex? As we know, they couldn't have kids on their own. Also, it would explain why Link knows about Alex and wants to kill it because it took him away from his mom, Louisa. This would also explain the line where Link told Annie that he wasn't 100% sure of what his age was back in episode 1 because he's traveled through time and he doesn't really know how old he is. Now, a lot of you all have mentioned the connection between Link and the Zelda video game and its ties to time travel. Now, personally, I've played Zelda, but not like that where I remember all the storylines and whatnot, and I wasn't like deep into the lore of Zelda, but I am a movie fanatic. Now, for my movie buffs out there, one of my all-time favorite films is Back to the Future. Now, it's funny because those who have seen Back to the Future, you all will remember that Marty, when he traveled back to the past, he referred to himself as Calvin.
I've never seen purple underwear before, Calvin.
Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
Well, that is your name, isn't it?
Let that sink into your head for a little bit. Now, let's take a look at some of the theories you all have about Calvin and Link's connection. I'm thinking Xavier time traveled when he experienced a nosebleed. Link could be Calvin. I'm thinking he is the baby born in a bunker and ended up time traveling later in life. That would explain why he has such an advanced understanding of quantum physics, knowledge he might have gained in a different time. This could also explain why he doesn't know much about the world before the bunker. Me and you are pretty much on the same page there, my friend, except for the Xavier part. Maybe he was exposed to Alex and he time traveled as well, but we're on the same wavelength there. Our next comment says, did we ever get Link's name? What if his name is Calvin? What if while taking care of the baby, she time delays him some way? Again, I think you all are kind of in the same realm of that I am in regards to Sinatra and baby Calvin and that potentially being Link. And our last comment here says, okay, what if baby Calvin equal President Cal and Annie's baby equal Jane have to admit they look similar mother-daughter way in a time loop paradox kind of thing? Baby Calvin being Calvin, meaning Calvin in the future would be crazy. Definitely a time paradox there. The baby Jane of it all, that is something that I talked about a couple weeks ago. I do think Jane may or may not be Link's sister, who he talked about in episode 1, that he would travel with his sister to California. So a lot of time paradox. I like where your head's at. A lot of crazy stuff potentially going on here. A lot of thoughts and ongoing theories about who Link is. Is he Dylan? Is he Calvin? Is he just some random time traveler? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, before we head out, again, this is public knowledge. This is available on Hulu's website. Here is next week's episode and the synopsis. Episode 5 is titled The Mailman, and it says Xavier meets Gary and learns what happened to Teri on the day. Again, based on that synopsis, it looks like we'll be going back in the past to what happened to Teri on the day, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's cut between the present day and we find out what happened to Teri, and X is going to learn via what happened to her when he's talking to this new character that we met by the name of Gary. So I'm anticipating some big reveals, possibly Teri being taken by Sinatra, Link, or someone else entirely. With that said, that will conclude this week's theory video for Paradise Season 2. Thank you all for the continued great predictions, the theories you all share. They're just so incredible. I love this show. I love reading you all's comments and just the engagement, the buzz, the excitement around this show is so incredible. Matter of fact, before I forget, I want to show you all a quick clip of something that came out a couple of days ago. And I won't play the audio because it'll be taken down, but just check this out. This is so funny to me. I love this show and I love this cast. Also, too, I thought this was really cool. Before we wrap up, the Sterling K. Brown commented on one of my videos. Big fan of his. He's from St. Louis. I currently live in St. Louis. One day I hope to meet him and just be able to share how much of a fan I am of not only his performance in the show, but just as a person, as a movie star in my eyes. Shout out to Sterling K. Brown. Thank you again, guys, for sending in your comments, your theories, your predictions. So much fun to read these. I guess to kind of set parameters moving forward so we can have like a more efficient way of doing this. I like to have my breakdowns on Monday, and then I like to have these videos prepared for Thursday. So if you all would like to, in the comments, to say like, hey, I would love to be included in a video, like put like a star on your comment. And I like to have it in by Wednesday. That way I can prep for it for Thursday to come out. Or you all can like email me. If you want to email me your theories and predictions that you would like to be seen in these videos, email would be great. A DM, or again, you can just put in the comments of that week's breakdown, like put a little star so I know that you all want to be included, so we can do that moving forward. All right, guys, before we head out, thank you again for the support. Hit a like on this video, hype up the video, share the video to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about this show like we do. Also, consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel where we're talking about Paradise. We're talking about new movies. We got other shows to look forward to. So definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell. For those that are listening to this via podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you all leave your comments in the comment section. Also, give this a 5-star rating. I would really appreciate all the support. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you again. I hope you all are staying safe. Don't forget, you all are awesome, and I'll catch you on the next video.